Hey folks, it's Dr. Brian King again. Once again, bringing you another episode of On the Road. You can see I'm still in my new studio and I still haven't gotten to decorate yet. At some point or another, there will be stuff on the walls behind me. I'm only mentioning this because I just logged into the computer and our guest today, his background is on point. Our guest is a guy by the name of Michael Allison. Michael contacted me not too long ago and he's like, hey man, I think I'd love to do your podcast. And he told me a little bit about him and I was like, wow, you'd be a great guy to talk to, you know? He is a vet. After serving in the Marines, then he went on to become a public speaker. I am a public speaker. That's how I make my living. I'm not a former Marine, though. We do have that. That is a difference between us, and I'm sure that's the only difference because as we get to know each other, I'm sure we have a lot more in common than we have different. So please welcome to the show, Michael Allison, everybody.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Blues, women, and blues. I'm here, I'm there.
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm in great spirits now these days. Past couple of days kind of was going through a bad little funk around with my dad and things like that, but things are much more better now, man, recently.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to catch you on an upswing.
Absolutely.
That's always good. So I did mention my background sucks. It's just I just moved. That's my only excuse. And although it looks empty behind me, man, in front of me, it's all boxes and garbage and everything that I'm like, why did I pay 10 grand to bring this stuff from one state to another when I just want to throw it all away? But your background is very settled. In fact, it's almost borderline distracting. I'm seeing medals, I'm seeing certificates, I'm seeing books that you wrote. Can you tell me about yourself?
Absolutely, man. Just a humble kid that grew up in Miami, Florida. I was born in Jamaica. And throughout my life, I've been through quite a few different challenges and adversity, from surviving a flood with my family, surviving Hurricane Gilbert, coming to the United States, been through some child situations that no kid should ever experience, either one with a family member, then also experience being molested in the Boy Scouts. And some of those things troubled me as a kid. From there, man, I just went on through high school.
Let me just say really quick. This podcast went dark real fast. I'm in good spirits, and oh man, I suffered some hurricanes, and I was molested. And, oh my God. What? Let's unpack some of that stuff. Were you not born an American?
No, I wasn't, man. I share some of those things as like a couple of years ago. I would have never shared that. Wouldn't even be publicly talking about some of those things. But some of those things have built me to the person that I am now, where I'm in great spirits and truly blessed and happy about my life, man. But yeah, so when I was a younger kid, we had a heavy downpour season full of rain, and where we lived at in Jamaica, there was a canal by our house, and the water levels kept rising. And then woke up one morning in the middle of the night, water is inside of our house. You see toys and things just floating around inside of the house, and mom and dad had to grab all of the kids. They got a ladder and climbed on top of the roof, literally, until the water subsided, man. And that was one of the first things that I seen when it comes to dealing with some adversities and challenges. And just seeing my family go through that and had to rebuild, get everything that they worked so hard for, and start life all over again. Then 2 years later, we get hit with Hurricane Gilbert, Category 5 hurricane, and that blew off the roof. In Jamaica, the houses rooftops are built of zinc, so it blew everything off, man, and messed up the structure and everything, and we had to rebuild again. But at this particular juncture, my mom and dad was like, "That's it, enough is enough. We need a change." And when they decided to do that, one of the changes that they decided to make was they went to New York, and then we stayed in Jamaica with my grandparents for a little bit. But then we went to Miami, Florida, while they stayed in New York. And unfortunately for me, when I came to Miami, Florida, I came to downtown Miami, Overtown Miami, and it was not the best situation. I came there living with my grandparents, my aunt.
So you're born in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Right. And you were raised in Jamaica for a little while.
Mhm.
And then your family decides to move to New York, and you said Queens. It was it Jamaica, Queens, by any chance?
Yeah, they were scattered out. They was in Queens, New York. Our family was in Brooklyn, New York too as well, and some of them was also in the Bronx as well too.
Yeah, and then you said, you know what? I kind of miss Jamaica, so let's find the part of the United States that resembles Jamaica the most. And you ended up, and you said, all right, let's go to Miami. I don't want to get into your other trauma that you had mentioned because. But you've overcome quite a bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
you had a difficult childhood. Moving around is never easy. Moving from country to country is never easy. Did you have a hard time learning the language?
Man, that was one of the hardest things because me talk Jamaican, so me speak patois, and then all of a sudden, and you know, you try to integrate with the American kids. And I grew up in where there was Haitian kids that speak Creole, and then Hispanic kids that speak Spanish, and then it's American kids. And I'm trying to like figure all these different language barriers out, man. That was one of the biggest challenges too, as well, man.
It's funny that you replied to that so seriously, because I meant that as just a dumb joke. You know, like English country to English country, but it is true that Jamaicans don't actually speak, you know, what we consider English. You know, even though it sounds like it, and some words are common. You know, so yeah, so you spoke. What is it that they speak in Jamaica?
Patois.
Yeah.
Patois. Yeah.
And you spoke that, and then you came over, and then you had to learn the way we do it. You know, and that was an adjustment, of course. And from Jamaican immigrant to Marine. Now, how did that happen?
So I was in high school and I was playing football and suffered 2 injuries, tore ACL and MCL back to back, and came across this recruiter, Staff Sergeant Noda. And he was telling me all of the great things about the Marine Corps, none of the bad stuff or anything like that. So he sold me. He told me like, you're gonna have college, you're gonna make money, you're gonna travel the world, you're gonna see girls, you're gonna drink, you're gonna party, you're gonna do all these great things. And I was like, I was enticed, man. He sold me. And you know, I never had a family member that served anything like that. So every single thing that this recruiter was telling me was gold, man. And I came home, told my parents all about it. And they was on board in regards to some of the benefits and things like that came with serving in the military. And then when I actually gave a look in regards to like some of the other branches, the Marine Corps was what stood out for me in regards to like all of the things that it embodied and everything that it stood for compared to some of the other branches. Nothing against other branches, but the Marine Corps was the one that was a good fit for me. And that was one of the biggest decisions I ever made in my life, and turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, man. Signing on, joining the Marine Corps, enlisting, going through boot camp, going through some of those things, and then having an opportunity to meet so many fantastic guys, get a chance to see the world, travel the world. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I got a chance to go serve in combat, and serving side by side with some of those guys in combat, and actually experiencing that coming out of that alive, you know, has truly made a tremendous impact on my life too as well.
Yeah, that's a very noble career path and set of life choices. And I'm surprised that you were swayed by the promise of partying and girls.
At 17 years old, man, I was pretty convinced, man.
You're signing up to essentially live in barracks with a bunch of dudes, you know, so like, it's like, oh, but there's going to be girls. Like, how is that even a selling point? And so much partying. Yeah. Cause every movie I've ever seen that shows the Marines, you know, they're nothing but hard partiers, you know, constant partying. You can't even get a spot on your glove. And you know, and you expect to party, you know? You have to make your bed absolutely perfect for some drill sergeant. And oh no, that's partying. I'm a party.
After all of the strict stuff, we do get a chance to like we call it libo, where we get the weekends and things like that. Man, it was a great time. I will say initially the boot camp part, I thought like, what the hell did I just sign up for? I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, this shit is horrible. I feel like I'm getting punished every single day. I'm
Where's like, the girl? God. Where's the girls? Where's the party? Oh man, that's gotta be right. Well, maybe, you know, it was a loss in translation. You know, you thought he said partying, but what he said was complete hell. Maybe that was it. But I'm very thankful for your service as somebody who has never served. I'm thankful that you were out there doing it, so I didn't have to. I really appreciate that. What kind of combat did you see?
So we served with Fallujah kicked off in 2004. So when 9/11 hit, I was in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune, and as soon as that hit and the towers, my family immediately called me. The base shut down, and everyone is asking me, "Am I going to war?" All these different things that scare your family members, all that's surrounding that situation. And from there, it was not until about 2-3 years later. Obviously, President Bush declared war, but behind the scenes, we were preparing and we were training. And while we were training, we were out in Camp Pendleton, and we went out to 29 Palms. And while we were out there in 29 Palms, Captain Venning came out to us while we were training and preparing for that, telling us, "Boys, it's our time to go." And when we did that, we kind of ramped up our training, preparing, getting ready to go into Fallujah. So we started training in 29 Palms. Then we started doing some like hand-to-hand, kicking the doors type of close combat types of training, fighting each other, those types of training, just in case it had to get to those types of things. And then from there, once we were prepared, get everything, I called my family members. I disconnected with everyone. I cut off everyone just in case I don't make it back home. And we left from California, went to Seattle, from Seattle to Canada, from Canada to Germany, from Germany to Kuwait. And from Kuwait, we marched 5 tons, Hummers, tanks, you name it, on over 100 vehicle convoy into Fallujah, man. And we got there early February, and the battle was on ever since then, man. And we stayed there all the way up until Thanksgiving, November 2004.
Wow. So is that where the partying happened?
No, there was no partying on that side, man. Not one bit.
Where the girls, the girls in Fallujah, some nice girls.
Man, I cut off all the girls. I cut off every single thing, man. When I was getting ready to go, just more so in regards to, I didn't want to, I guess, have any attachments or any burden or any of those things that was tied to that, man. But yeah, man, no party, no girls. I had to cut all that off, man, and just went straight and narrow, bro.
So you got exactly what your recruiter had promised you from being a Marine. Now that's awesome, and again, I'm glad you made it back from that situation. I see you got some medals behind you. Are those from combat?
Yes, they are. So maybe from what you could see from the shadow box here. So we have the Purple Heart. The second to last month that I was there on September 13th, I was involved in a car bomb, and I was delivering supplies, and our unit was in a 360 perimeter setup. And I'm dropping things off, and we get to the last Humvee. On that Humvee, it has my gunnery sergeant, it has our doctor on there, our gunner, Hernandez, and my best friend, Soto, was the driver. Gave them their supplies. I pull off. 5 to 7 seconds later, hit the loudest explosion in my life. And the car bomb blew up, drove into that Humvee. And then the blast and the shrapnel from there tilted my tank, slammed it back down. Shrapnel hit me above the eye, injured my shoulder, injured my back, and knocked me out inside of the tank. And from there, Gunny was blown up, had blood running out of his ears. Doctor lost his leg. Our gunner blew off half of his face. And my best friend, Soto, he died. And his body parts was on the steering wheel of the Humvee. Wow. But that's how I got my injury from that blast. So I'm always thankful in regards to that easily could have been me 7 seconds ago.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it. But from there, man, that's how I got the Purple Heart. And then the Navy Achievement Medal it's a star on there because I received 2 of those. The previous mission, we were in a shootout with some Iraqis, and we had to do what we had to do against them. So that's how I got those 2 medals from that. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we have the Good Conduct and the Overseas. All of these are overseas or are serving on ship medals, the rest of them. And then the other ones are things that I did as surveillance on the in CONUS, like in the United States during peacetime. Those are the medals. And then from the pants, your blood stripe is what you get whenever you turn into become an NCO, the red blood stripe for your uniform as well too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Was that tank attack that you suffered? I'm sorry to hear about your friends and with you, but was that tank attack you suffered? Was that your ticket out?
I would say, yeah, man. I served for 8 years, and I'm not sure. I seen this in the movie that talked about with the guy Kyle, and you saw that as soon as he came from combat, like the next day he was back home with his wife and kids, and the transition period was not enough for him to like mentally process that or go through that to become a normal person. And for me, that was similar to my transition when I came back home. I could not adjust. I could not function. I could not really deal with a lot of things personally and professionally as a Marine. And that always flashed in my head in regards to I could have easily died 5 to 7 seconds ago. And also something that I talk about whenever I get on stage and speak, and something that I talk about when I share with people, there's a bit of grief and guilt that was always inside of me, because when I was going around that 360 perimeter, that same car, I passed it.
Oh, wow.
And it's always on my mind why I didn't see that, how I could have prevented that. And that story played in my head over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that led to some of the decisions I made in regards to getting out of the service.
I see in your bookshelf behind you a couple of titles that are also on my own bookshelf, so I do recognize them as pertaining to PTSD.
Yeah, it is. It says once a warrior, always a warrior. Yep.
Yeah. Did you ever wrestle with any of that?
Yeah, I did, man. PTSD is one of these things that I had to battle for close to 15 to 20 years. Still deal with some of those symptoms now. But when I got out, that transition period was horrible for myself, man. When you're trying to like deal with the past, some of the things that you're struggling with, that comes with the symptoms of it, and not having an avenue or an outlet led to quite a good bit of isolation, depression, and led me to the brink of trying to commit suicide and try to take my life, man. Got onto being on 13 different medications. Got a DUI, got arrested. My life out of the military was horrible. It was just a downward spiral trying to deal with that transition, man. Yeah.
It's an absolute shame, because you did everything right. You were football player, working out, developing your body, developing your mind, recruited, because for the promise of girls and partying. Worked in the service of our country. Literally had to fight, like saw combat in our country, and then you're plagued with such demons related to that. You have to, not only medicate 13 different, prescriptions, but you also contemplated ending it because PTSD. I don't know if you looked into me at all, but I'm a psychologist by training. I am here in North Carolina, in a military town, and I have a really strong sense of what these military guys go through, and it's just absolutely awful that was the outcome for you. Now you seem pretty well adjusted, and clearly you didn't, commit the horrible act. So how did you overcome all that?
Yeah, I think once I hit rock bottom and I was in Tampa, Florida, that's when I had the moment as like, this is not going to be my final outcome. This is not going to be the destination of my life, my career. And I always remember that I had made a promise right when I went to boot camp and I was in boot camp to tell my mom and dad that I'm never going to quit and never quit on myself, especially seeing the things that they've been through to make it through life for the life that I'm privileged to live now. And I was not going to quit on them. And at that juncture, I had a son at the time. I was divorced. I was on my second divorce at that time. And I had a son, and I was saying to myself, I'm not going to quit and give up on him, and I'm going to change my life. And that's when I started to understand what's this thing with PTSD, what's going on with this thing around mental health, what happened to me with this traumatic brain injury from getting knocked out, and then coming back to and stuff like that. So I went to the Emory Hospital, where they were trying to work with me in regards to understand what are some of the things that I need to focus on and deal with when it comes to PTSD or cognitive thinking, some of the things that surround like neuro-linguistic programming, and just understand how your brain works and how your brain function, how to change how you're thinking, how you're processing things, how you're filtering things in regards to like the trauma and the things that you've been through, and how to get through that. And then once I was finished with the program and the treatment there at the Veteran Emory Hospital, then I went to Rush University, and they had another program there called Road Home, and they get a chance to sit down with me, and the counselors there and the therapists there were veterans that were now within that space, working with veterans that has already been to combat themselves, and going through that treatment, kind of just doubled down in regards to understanding some of the things that I've experienced, some of the things that I've been through, and how I was going on about life and how I could change my life. And once I started that process, it led me to the journey of getting into my faith. And I tapped into my church with a group of guys, with a group called the Freedom Group. And it was in regards to just learning how to like free yourself of all of these things. So I had a lot of grief. I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of things that was going on with me and my wife. We just got remarried about 1.5 years now. And there was lots of things that I was dealing with that I had to face, that I had to work on myself so I could transition, so I could be a better version of myself. And that led to the transition. That was a 10-year process that I just told you within like 2 or 3 minutes.
I'm glad you can't take 10 years. Otherwise, we would lose a lot of the listeners to the podcast.
Exactly.
So overcoming all that, and you definitely, it's interesting that you also brought up the church. You were recruited into this church, or how did they promise you? They promise you girls and partying?
No, I don't think it came with that subscription there, man. Nah, I was living in South Florida when I came back home, and we were moving to West Palm Beach, where we live at now. And my wife was like, "We need to get back into church. We need to get back into church." And she came up with a list of 3 different churches. And out of the 3, we just picked one to start with. We said, we're going to go this one this Sunday, go to the other one the next Sunday, and just kind of like see which one we like. And we went to the first church, which is called Journey Church. And when we went to Journey Church, we loved the pastor, we loved the people, we loved the environment. And we made that our church home. And within the church, they had small groups. And one of the small groups was called the Men's Freedom Group. And to be honest with you, when I started the Men's Freedom Group, I did it, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't take it that serious because I was not really committed. So I would show up there, and I'd probably show up, I was either drinking, I was not paying attention. And after going through, it's 12 sessions, and after going to, I think 4 or 5 sessions I stopped going and I quit. And it just kept lingering inside of me. If I want to really change my life, if I want to really narrow down on this and focus on this, then I need to show up 100% into this program. I'm going to get as much out of it as much as I put into it. And then the second go round, I did that. And it was the best thing that I ever did and changed my life, put me in contact with a group of guys that I'm still friends with now that still supports me. And to the point of me doing that, I went through the program and came out of the program clearing myself of so many things that I was holding on to in regards to like the things I was believing about myself. And once I did that, then they said, "Hey, Michael, we want you to be one of our freedom leaders." So now I'm leading the freedom group. So I lead the freedom group at our church, and it turned out to be a fascinating thing. And now they asked me and my wife to now lead the couples freedom group. So we're going to be doing that next year at our church too as well, man.
Wow, that's really cool. Is this what led you into public speaking?
So the public speaking standpoint came several years ago. I was in group therapy, and I was always sharing some of the things that I've been through, and people were saying, "Hey, why don't you like write a book about that and try to help other people?" So I went to Texas. Several years ago in San Antonio, Texas, and I was with the Writers Guild, and I was working with a friend of mine named Steve Belber, and he helped me write. And we wrote like 1 or 2 chapters of the book. And after I wrote the book, the couple first chapters, I stopped because I was not ready to be vulnerable and transparent to talk about anything that happened to me in my life, like I'm doing with you now. So I sat on the idea for a couple of years. I just kept working and doing my job. And then I bought a franchise and I was running my company. And I was in the gym working out one day, and all of a sudden, you know what? It just came over me saying, like, I don't want to do this no more. And it said, go finish the book. And I eventually finished the book, wrote the book, and put the book out there to everybody that was within my network. And people was all over it. And from there, I got invited to do a TED Talk. And from me doing the TED Talk, that led to me being invited to tell my story, share my concepts and things like that. But I wasn't saying that I was a polished speaker or anything like that. So then I hired a speaking coach, and he taught me the entire process of how to like speak, how to put my stories in framework, how to connect with the audience, and different things that's tied around that. And from there, once I worked with a speaking coach, I was able to learn how to get on stages, learn how to tell my story through those different platforms and things like that. Ever since then, man.
Is the book you wrote, is that Overcoming Adversity?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show that to the folks. Tell people a little bit about this.
Yeah, so my book, Overcoming Adversity, Getting Your Life Back on Track. You'll see here, it talks about being molested, being bullied in school, being arrested, a PTSD, traumatic brain injury, being unemployed, going through 2 divorces, having a blended family, some of the injuries that I suffered, some of the child custody with my divorce, and then I'll talk about entrepreneurship. So throughout every single chapter within this book, there's a story, but there's lessons, there's principles that I'm sharing. There's key takeaways from every single chapter. So it's not just a story just about my life. I'm giving you a story about my life, but for you as the reader, what are some key concepts? What are some key things that you could take away that you can impart into your life or to your business as well, too?
Mm-hmm. That's great, because although not everybody has to suffer from such extreme circumstances as you have experienced, everybody can learn from them. Speaking about books, on my list of books that I've written, the one that's the big bestseller, the one that's done really well, is The Art of Taking It Easy, which is all about a psychological phenomena we refer to as resilience. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're familiar with that concept.
Yes.
You seem like an extremely resilient person. And the thing that I teach people and try to communicate to them is that resilience comes from your thoughts. It comes from your mind. It comes from how you interpret things that happen to you, how you deal with things that happen to you, and how you let them affect you. And I always tell people is that you don't always have control over your circumstances, but you always have control over how things affect you. And I wonder if you have any insight into how you became such a resilient person.
It was when I decided, and like you said, that was the biggest thing. What you said was taking control, and it was when I decided to look at challenges, to look at adversity as not obstacles anymore, but more so bring it on. Whatever the challenge is, whatever comes my way, I'm going to be willing to take it on. When I was in the Marine Corps and I was in Japan, and my captain came up to me and she said, Sergeant Allison, you have a can-do attitude. I never understood what that meant, but when I left Japan, she gave me the can-do award. And I guess that's always been inside of me, as in, like, I will never look at a challenge as in, like, this is something that I cannot do, I cannot go through, or I cannot get past. And I've always been someone that always looked at things in regards to, like, I don't have the resources, more so, but how to be resourceful. And with that always in mind, then that concept is like, how can I face anything that comes at me and fight through this, push through these types of things, and always looking at things that in regards to the outcome and in regards to like being a woe is me type of person.
Yeah, but how do you tell yourself that to keep pushing on when life just keeps pounding at you? What drives you to get up?
I think it's the motivation and always being difference led. I've always looked at in regards to what difference is this going to make? And when I look at that in regards to the motivation, in regards to, I want a better life for myself, I want a better life for my family, I want to make an impact to people, I want to share my story, I want to help change other people's lives. And always being difference led is always something that always pushed me in regards to seeking solutions for myself or seeking solutions for other people, or imparting my stories or my journey to let people know that you actually can get through whatever you're facing. It's just how you look at the outcome. and just understanding what difference is this going to make in your life and how you can make an impact and change people's lives too as well.
So people always ask me, I'm a very resilient person. Now I haven't suffered some of the tragedies that you've experienced, but I've had my own, negative, situations and circumstances, and people always ask me how I became so resilient. I always tell them, it's like, well, I have no idea. Because when I was growing up, I wasn't a psychologist. I was just, I was just doing what I needed to do. But I can look at my history and see some events that might have contributed to making me more resilient, to putting me in a position where I choose to find solutions instead of giving up, and I keep on working towards a potential goal despite setbacks and failures and so forth. And I'm always curious to find out what drives other resilient people, especially someone like yourself who suffered from probably some tragedies. Any number of the things that you've suffered throughout your life would have resulted in PTSD, and some people would completely just shut down, and that's it for them. That's they're not going. But you picked up and moved forward after multiple situations in your life, and so there's something in you. There's a drive, and I know you communicate it to people.
I agree with you. That like I said, I'm a solution-driven person and success-driven. So every single time that I've been through something and I've gotten through it, I made it through that. I always look back like I made it through that. I didn't die, and I made it through that. From the hurricanes, the floods, the Boy Scouts, the high school injuries, when I went to boot camp and I couldn't swim, and I got frostbite. I got blown up in a car bomb. I've been arrested. I've gotten a DUI. I've been through 2 divorces. I tried to commit suicide. All of those things, and here I am, still now today in front of you on this mic talking to you. I'm on stage talking about my story. I'm writing my book. So I'm always let people know that if I could get through all of these things, I know that you can, right? It's just something within inside of you if you're going to just choose to make that decision to actually move forward and push through and just be solutions driven.
Yeah. You have kids, right? You said how many?
Yeah. So me and my wife we have a blended family. So we have a 26-year-old. He'll be 27 in February, and we have a 17-year-old that'll be 18 in August.
Wow. How do you instill resilience in kids?
You know what, man? I try to be an example in regards to instilling those things, because I share with them my story. I talk to them about certain things in regards to being resilient. And it seems like you just have to be their coach and be their mentor as they're going through things, because I could tell them a lot of things, but if they've never been through it, it's kind of like hard for them to understand that or comprehend that. And I say that as in like like my youngest, he'll go through school. He just tore his ACL and in high school football. And I'm keeping motivating him and coaching him and talking to him and things like that. But I could really see that as he's going through this process, like he wants to give up on football. He thinks it's the end of the road, and he's just having that type of mindset. And this is where I'm like, this is where resilience is going to kick in to kind of see what you're really made of. So this is one of the things that we had to really talk about. And there's other situations, but you really have to like coach your kids and talk to them through some of these things, because it's kind of like when kids are kids and you're like I was like that too. And your parents is telling you stuff, but you don't really believe them until like you go through it yourself. And then the thing with that, same thing with our oldest one, so he's there in NC State in North Carolina, and he's going through things as he wants to get into the psychological space where he wants to get into prison, and he wants to work with prisoners and work with them. But he's gone through some of his own ups and downs, some of his own challenges and things like that. But it's as me and his mom would always talk to him and keep coaching him and just pushing him through to keep on get through certain things, because it's those experiences that's going to like actually get you through some of the tough times and tough situations that you can actually look back and be like, yes, I could do that.
I'm glad you specified that he wants to work in prison, because when you first say he's looking at getting into prison, I'm like, well, that's not too hard, actually. There's a lot of things you can do to get into prison, man. The reason why I ask is because I'm a father and I wrestle with this as well as trying to answer the question for other people. I'm assuming based on your, what you're presenting to me so far, that you live and you have provided these children a much more comfortable and secure life than the one that you grew up with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the same is true for me. My daughter has it way better off than I had it, and that I think is part of the problem. Really, I want her to be resilient. I want her to grow up being able to face challenges, and I'm almost like, I want you to go out and suffer some tragic consequences. Just go out and let bad things happen to you for a while, and then come back. It's really hard in our current society, and I think
you're so right. You're so right. You're so right.
It's one of our major issues actually in our society, is that life, every generation makes life better for the next. And we become softer and less, strong, less resilient. We be less able to handle, the stressors of life. It's very unfortunate. And how to overcome that with balance and still keep my kids safe, I have no idea. But it's a tough one.
I agree with you, man. It's very tough because you're right. We moved here to West Palm Beach, one of the best neighborhoods you can live in South Florida. So he doesn't know what it's like to grow up in Miami. He doesn't know what it's like to grow up in Jamaica.
You're practically neighbors with our president.
Exactly. So in regards to his understanding of those things, you're right, man. You don't want your kids to go through bad things, but it's not until like they experience some like tough times or tough situations. But I don't want him to have any of those things, but it's not until they get through some of those things for them to learn how to deal with it. That's why I say as parents, we have to be there to love them, support them, coach them, and get them through some things for them to actually learn and understand and comprehend what it's like to actually face a tough situation, man.
Mm-hmm. And you're not only teaching your kids, but you're also teaching the world with your public speaking opportunity. So you mentioned that public speaking is taking you all over the country, and you've done a lot of traveling with that. How has that been for you?
It's been fascinating, man. When I first started out, like I mentioned to you, it was more so of getting the reps in and getting that under my belt. So when I first started off, I was not that good or anything like that. I think when I got on stage, I was fumbling my words, didn't really know how to put concepts together. And I was using a lot of arms and didn't really know how to use a hand gesture and things around that. So when I first got started, I was speaking for free, and I only got on 5 different stages. And I was like, all right, cool. Do I keep doing this or do I stop? And then I said, if I want to do this, then I have to get serious, and I have to make a decision in regards to identify my goal, in regards to what I want to do, in regards to being the best at it and working at my craft. So from there, that's when I said, I'm going to get coaches. I'm going to watch some of the best speakers that's out there. I'm going to get some of the best mentors and people and put them into my life to help me integrate some of these things. I'm going to go get the training that I need to become a better speaker, whether it's Toastmasters, whether it's TED Talks, whatever you name it. And I'm going to do some of those things so I could become a better speaker. And implementing some of those different strategies and practicing and rehearsing, becoming a professional speaker. Within the next year, I got on 24 stages and had a chance to travel and meet some of the greatest people that I've never thought I could meet. Les Browns, you name it, down here in South Florida. Had a chance to work with Anthony Trucks, you name it. We had a chance to go to Italy and Rome and speak over there and so many different places, man. But it has, for me, just putting in that work, it has changed my life, man. And the beauty about it, what I really like is whenever I've spoken, almost every single time someone has coming up to me and is asking me some of the same things they asked me about, either like suicide. How do you get through some of those as kids? How do you, as a man, talk about some of these things that most men don't talk about, those types of things? So to know the impact that I'm making in regards to the resilience and showing how you could get past certain things and stuff like that, that's the truly blessing in regards to what I do, which makes it totally rewarding. And then letting you know, like, hey, the work that I'm doing and the things that I'm doing and the concepts that I'm talking about is actually really beneficial to help other people too as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. Have you been back to Fallujah?
that was only that one-way trip, bro. Never again. Never again.
I'm sure those people could use a good public speaker.
Never again, Brian.
Maybe you could just drop a couple packages of books on them. I don't know. Give them something, help them out.
They keep that, man. No, sir.
There are places that aren't worth returning. Yeah, that is true. Well, Mike, it's great talking to you, man. Good to get to meet you. Where can people find out more about you and possibly even find out if you're coming to speak near them?
Most definitely. So you can go to my website, michaelwallison.com. And then you could also follow me on social media. On LinkedIn, I am Michael W. Allison. On Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, I am Michael W. Allison too as well. But definitely you could always reach out to me from there. My email is on there. Our company phone number is on there too as well. You can find out my lineup. We have a big year coming up for 2025 in regards to where we're speaking in quite a few different keynotes. So you'll also see me traveling next year as well too.
Michael, it was a great meeting you. Hopefully some of my fans will come check out your work, see what you're all about. At least buy the book, folks. It's like becoming a writer during the era with the lowest amount of book sales in history, Mm-hmm. But hey, at least you're on TikTok. So that worked.
Yeah, man. Writing a book is it's definitely a challenge, but it's more rewarding for me too, in regards to just knowing that I'm offering something in regards to helping people, man. So that's the ultimate benefit in regards to what you get out of it, as I'm trying to help change people's lives too as well, man.
Right. All right, man. Well, it's good talking to you. Nice getting to know you a little bit, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your life to talk to me.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you, man.
All right. And folks, those of you listening or watching, however you're consuming this podcast, that's been another episode of On the Road with Dr. Brian. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm here, I'm there.